Good afternoon, American Foundation for Equal Rights Committee. My name is Chris Haro, and I would like to enlighten you on a case that I recently read, an article from Barbara Bradley, published June 10, 2006, and it discusses a case between Vanessa and Elaine. Now, Vanessa is a lesbian woman, and she plans on getting married to her significant other very soon, and she's looking for a photographer to do her wedding. And as she looks around, she finds Elaine's photography, and she's very interested in her work, and she loves it. And so she sends her an email saying, "Oh, Miss Elaine, I would love for you to be my photographer for my wedding. I love your work, and I really wish for you to come for me and my wife to make my wedding better." So Elaine found her email, and she read it, and she wrote back saying, "Oh, Miss Vanessa, I'm very happy you found marriage. I'm very happy you found love, and I'm glad you're getting married. However, because of my belief, I cannot partake in your wedding. I do not partake in same-sex marriages. However, please, I hope you have a great wedding and have a great life." Vanessa was very sad at this point. She was very emotional, and she'd never been discriminated before at all. She didn't know what to do. But later on, she found out. She went to the courts, and she filed a discrimination case, discrimination towards Elaine because she did not partake in her wedding. And in the end, Elaine had to pay over $16,000 in discrimination fees for what she believed in. Now, American Foundation for Equal Rights Committee, I ask you, because she had the right of freedom of religion and freedom of speech, was she wrong here for being paid for discrimination fees? In this speech, I'm going to argue how Proposition 8 is constitutional. First, I will argue how homosexuality, gay marriage affects religion. Second, I will argue how Prop 8 protects religion. And third, I will argue how homosexuals can have the same rights even without marriage. Well, because of that case, I'll go on to another case that was in the same story from what Barbara wrote about. And another case was Bernstein versus Willock. And Bernstein is also a lesbian woman who plans on getting married. And she grew up with a pastor she knew, and his name was Mr. Willock, Reverend Willock. And she asked him, "Oh, Mr. Willock, I would love to get married in the place that you guys have worship at, and it is a place that the church owns right off the coast of the river." And she asked him if it was okay if we could get married in the church. And well, Mr. Willock, with his reply, Reverend Willock told her, "Well, Miss Bernstein, I love you, you know how I am with you, I knew you all my life. However, because of what I believe with the religion I have, I cannot let you get married in the place of where we have worship at. However, I would love for you to get married in the river right off of the bank. It is beautiful and it has a great balcony, and I hope you to get married with your significant other anytime soon." So Ms. Bernstein got very defensive and very sad and emotional, and she felt discriminated just as Vanessa did. And so she filed discrimination cases toward the church and Mr. Willock. In the end, Mr. Willock had to pay $20,000 in discrimination fees from the church, and the church lost lots of money. With this said, the First Amendment gives everyone the right of freedom of religion and the freedom of speech. And with that amendment, Willock went straight up to her and told her, "I have my faith and I cannot partake with it, and I cannot let you get married in the church because of what I believe in." And he spoke the truth. And in the end, he still had to pay discrimination fees toward Ms. Bernstein. Again, the American Foundation for Equal Rights, his rights broken in this scenario. Now, cases like this happen, but another reason, for those who are religious, there is a way to protect their rights and their religious views, and that is Proposition 8. Now, all of you who all know, Proposition 8 is the those who get married are banned. Their marriages get cut. And in 2008, in the polls, it was 52% to 47%. The proposition was passed, and homosexuality was not allowed. And for those rights, I understand it is wrong, it is sad. And for those who cannot get married, it is sad for those who cannot. However, for that, and all of you who read the polls, more than half of the people who voted were religious, and they all voted yes. And I will tell you, this is sad. Most of those who are religious, they are discrimination. They do judge those. They do not love most of them. But however, I will tell you, in the Bible, yes, in Matthew chapter 10, in the chapter 7, the very first two verses, it talks about judgment, and one should not judge thy neighbor. And also in the second commandment, it says we must love one another. And I will tell you, most of those religious views, people, they do not meet these goals. They do not. It is sad to see this. However, I can say, though, there was one man, like I just said right now, Reverend Willock, did what he agreed from what he said from the Bible. He loved Miss Bernstein. He did not judge her for not getting married. He wanted them to get married. And he said he wanted them to go off and get married by the river. And he did not hate them. So with that said, with those two with the commandment he kept and the love that he had for them, he wanted them to get married. And with the First Amendment that just happened, where he has the freedom of religion and the freedom of speech to say that his rights are to not let them get married in the church, he still had to pay discrimination fees toward them. And it's sad to see this when all of his rights were violated for this. This is how Proposition 8 can protect religion in situations like this, where homosexuals would like to get married in the church, but because of their rights, who want religion, they cannot get married in the church. And in the end, they still have to pay discrimination charges toward them. Well, those now, since Proposition 8 was passed and gay marriage is now allowed in California, how can they have equal rights? Well, I tell you, American Foundation for Equal Rights Committee, domestic partnership is one situation, and I'll tell you, you have two leaders you have two leaders so far in your Equal Rights Committee. His name is Theodore Orson, and James David Boyes, and they came together with all of you and said, with your slogan, "We will fight for everyone's equal rights." And I love that. I'm so glad all of you can fight for everyone's rights. But it's so hard to reach everyone's needs in America and in California, especially with Proposition passed. Well, I'll tell you, how can we help those who cannot get married? Well, it is domestic partnership. Now, domestic partnership, in the homepage from what I saw from NOLO, Law for All, it speaks about domestic partnership and how those who cannot get married and those who are in a relationship, same-sex or non-same-sex, could reach benefits from each other economically or non-economically. And it states different reasons of how they have benefits, such as health from vision and dental, and also with housing, with those who are in business and schooling who have to move around. And there's lots of lists that goes on and on with different benefits. And however, I will tell you, many people say this is not enough for marriage. This is nothing compared to marriage. Well, I'll tell you, because Proposition was passed, how will we meet those needs for those who cannot get married? Well, you all fight for equal rights. Let's make domestic partnerships better. It's been around since 1980, domestic partnerships. And it's been around for 30 years. Between these 30 years, they had the same benefits. Why can't we advance it more for those who cannot get married? We have the power. You have the power. People have the power to make things better. And domestic partnerships can improve with how you guys fight for equal rights if we put it together and we fight for it. In this speech, I have argued how Proposition 8 is constitutional. First, I argued how homosexuality affects religion in certain situations. Second, I argued how Proposition 8 protects those rights of religion. And third, I argued how those who cannot get married can have benefits without getting married. I will tell you, American Foundation for Equal Rights Committee, we all need to fight for everyone's rights and look at both sides of different stories, not just one side. And it is hard to meet these goals, but I know in a way we can all fight and meet these goals.